right in here. What the heck? What are you doing here? In our vacation this week? Like, don't we still have, like, a couple more days? What are you talking about? Vacation's over? Oh, jeez Louise. Alright. Well, since the vacation's over for the red and gold, might as well talk about it. Might as well talk about all the stuff that's about to go down this week and the rest of the season. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are. Week 10. Week 10 back in action for my San Francisco 49ers. But yeah, back from the bye week for my red and gold team, the 49ers. How was your bye week, by the way? We had the last week off. I was certainly productive. No, I'm just playing. I got some time to, to relax. While of course working IRL. Managed to catch up on some IRL stuff, and then maybe catch a movie or two. I won't disclose what that was exactly. I mean, it's not that kind of movie, but I'm just kidding with you. And then also, as I talked about in the podcast, catch up on some snippets on the WWE Crown Jewel pay-per-view. But I mentioned in a couple episodes past that I wasn't going to review it because it didn't look all that interesting to me. But yeah, that's what I did during my bye week while the Niners were away. But I'd like to know how you guys spent your little vacay week, your stress-free week from the 49ers. So, yeah, let me know. Let's have a conversation about it in the comments below. But anyway, the Niners are back in action this week. They have, 10 or 9 more games to provide us more stress. Yes, pal. 9 more stressful Niner games. They're 4-4 now. And, yeah, I'm ready. I'm once again ready for the Niners to increase my heart rate, pal. So anyway, they're back in action this week. Going to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have to this time travel out down to the land of Florida, not the land of all elite. No. They have to travel to Tampa, Florida, the host site of the Royal Rumble this past year, to take on the Bucs. They faced them 2 times in the last 2 years. Of course, the first game the Niners played the Bucs in the last 2 times in the last 2 years was notable for the debut of Brock Purdy back in 2022. And then, of course, they played each other last year. And now this time around, the Niners have to go over there to play Tampa Bay. So, last time we saw the Niners in action, of course, they played the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night under the bright lights. They had a very slow start in the first half of that game, but they got their stuff together in the third quarter. But then they slowed down again in the fourth quarter, and they had to hold off a furious rally from Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys in that last quarter to win that game barely, 30-24. So that's where they stand, 4-4 on the season at the halfway point. Meanwhile, while they were on vacay, wherever everyone was on that team, they got to saw Baker Mayfield and the Bucs, a depleted Bucs team, mind you, that has just been riddled with injury mania running wild, pal, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Baker Mayfield and this Bucs squad had to go down to Arrowhead to take on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs on a Monday night. But regardless of how depleted this Bucs team was, they took the Chiefs to the absolute limit. And Baker Mayfield, he actually played pretty well in this game, and so did the Bucs defense, pretty much limiting as much as they could Patrick Mahomes and that offense. And they actually had every chance to upset them, hand them their first loss. And they actually tied the game, forced overtime, but unfortunately, they blew their chance to actually prevent overtime from happening when they just left too much time on the clock with 33 seconds. And they elected to tie the game rather than go for 2. But yes, even though going for 2 is the very aggressive approach, as we saw with that Thursday night game a couple days later with the Bengals and the Ravens. But when you're going up against the Chiefs, yeah, it's a special case, okay? But anyway,
yeah, the Bucs managed to lose that game 30-24 because, well, as you know, if you lose the coin toss to Patrick Mahomes and these defending Super Bowl champions, you're bound to lose. Which is weird. It's like, why don't they just bring over, why don't you just give, the other side, like if you score on a touchdown, like the first team scores, why don't you get the other team an opportunity? It's just weird. Why is it only playoff only rules? I don't know. So anyway, as things stand right now, these teams are right near the cusp of the playoff race, but it's still relatively like kind of early-ish in the season to even consider a playoff spot. The Niners, as they saw during the bye week, there's a little bit of shuffling around in the NFC West race. Arizona blew out Chicago. Now they currently hold the top spot in the division at 5-4. The Rams narrowly beat the Seahawks in overtime in that crazy game. So they're even at 4-4 with the same record as the Niners. Of course, the Rams holding the tiebreaker because they beat Arizona. No, they lost to Arizona, but they beat both us and the Seahawks. So they're 2-1 in the division. So the Niners have some catching up to do and some important games to win later on in the year. So they have some key critical games to win. So they basically cannot afford to lose any more division games and games within the NFC. And that starts here against Tampa Bay. Meanwhile, for the Bucs, yeah, they absolutely cannot lose any more games, especially if they're trying to play catch up with the Atlanta Falcons, which essentially it's almost kind of a done deal because, well, if you look at the Falcons, who played the New Orleans Saints, a beat up New Orleans Saints team this coming weekend in the not Silverdome, brother, the Superdome, and they have a chance to pretty much go for the clean sweep on them as well. Go up 5-0 in the division, in the NFC South. And if they go up 5-0 in the division, regardless of the result of this game, it's essentially a done deal for the Bucs' chances at the NFC South. So they're basically trying to compete for a playoff spot at this point. So it's another essential must win for both of these teams to keep their playoff hopes alive. So looking at the injury report for both of these teams, the Niners got some pretty much good news for the most part going into this game against Tampa Bay. The biggest news of all is getting back Dr. Christian McCaffrey, CMC, for this game. He's expected to make his season debut this coming Sunday in Tampa Bay. As most of you know, he's been out for half of the season with his Achilles tendonitis, aka the Madden curse. But anyway, good to see. It's going to be very good to see him back. Hopefully Kyle Shanahan doesn't abuse his ass. And yeah, I just hope they don't abuse his ass in his first game of the year. So very good to see him back in this game. Kicker Jake Moody, who missed a lot of October with the high ankle sprain that he suffered in the Arizona game because he tried to make a tackle because our special teams is ass. He's expected to return in this game against Tampa Bay, so that's why they released Anders Carlson, the backup kicker. Deebo Samuel and Juwan Jennings are expected to play despite their respective injuries. Deebo with the hip in the chest injury, and then Juwan Jennings the hip injury. Offensive lineman John Feliciano, who didn't play at all yet this season, and an edge rusher Yuta Grossmato, who missed a couple games as well, and was put on injury reserve. They had their practice windows open this past week, so it's up to the team when they're going to bring them back. So if they don't bring them back this week, they still have at least 1 or 2 more games to bring them back until, well, they can't at all. So there's also several other players to watch out for, whether they play or not in this game, because they've been limited in practice, including Nick Bosa with a hip injury, Jordan Mason with his shoulder injury, Malik Mustafa with the calf injury, although he said he's okay. So hopefully that stays the case, because we need some bodies in there in the secondary, and he's been playing very well this year. Charvarius Ward, some unfortunate news happened during the bye week, and sending all my love to him and his wife, because their 1-year-old daughter, man, passed away like during the bye week. It's like a year old. It's just like very sucks. Just absolutely sucks, man. So he's away from the team, and I really can't blame. I really can't blame them for letting him have this time away to just think about it, man. And yeah, he's tending to that, and take as much time as you need to tend to that. So meanwhile, for the Bucs, Mike Evans, I think he's going to be out again for this game with the hamstring injury that he suffered in that blowout loss to the Ravens. And then, of course, they don't have Chris Godwin for the rest of the season with the dislocated ankle in that same loss to the Ravens. Receivers Jalen McMillan and Sterling Shepard, they're in danger again of missing this game for the second straight game with their hamstring injuries. McMillan has been kind of a key focal point for Baker Mayfield, so would be a loss if he's going to be out again. Safety Jordan Whitehead may also miss his second straight game with a quad injury. Baker Mayfield has also been dealing with an injury himself, a toe issue, but he said he's going to play in this one. So looking at the keys to victory for both of these teams, for the Niners side of things, as they return to action, you got to shut down Baker Mayfield's short passing game. And that's basically the emphasis of the Bucs since they lost Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, because Baker Mayfield has basically had to rely on short and intermediate passes to move his offense, and especially relying on attacking the middle of the field with Kate Otten and his reliever receivers. So the Niner defense, especially without potentially having Charvarius Ward out there, and understandably so, they have to limit his opportunities, Baker's, mind you, by pressuring him as much as possible. That defensive line really has to hone in on him and going man for man on his reserve receivers. Like, you can't allow any opportunities for Baker in this offense to move. And then offensively, you're getting Dr. Christian McCaffrey back, the CMC, but you got to ease him in slowly. So I know Kyle Shanahan has that instant urge, pal, to go balls to the wall with him. And I know Christian McCaffrey does too, but like, just because he's back doesn't give both of them the excuse to go hardcore on each other. So, take it easy. Go slow with it. Especially considering how well Isaac Grindo and Jordan Mason, if he plays, they've been handling the load just fine so far. So, ease Christian McCaffrey back in, relatively slowly. Give him a couple reps, go by committee, and utilize him on third downs and in the red zone, and utilize him in certain passing situations. So, take your time, easing him back in this game. And then for the Bucs, you have to pressure, especially with that 49ers offensive front. You can take advantage of it. The Bucs' defensive front did a very solid job of attacking Patrick Mahomes for half of the game in that Monday Nighter. So against a worse offensive line in the 49ers, they need to have a field day going after Brock Purdy. They can especially attack the interior in this one. And then offensively, test that Niner defense with, as I mentioned, on the Niner side of things, the short passing game. Baker has no deep threat to go to. But Kate Otten, he's come along relatively nicely. He's become the most reliable weapon for this Bucs offense. So he has to throw in the middle of the field, which San Francisco is currently vulnerable in. And I expect the Bucs to attack that area relatively often and throw in short yardage situations very, very often. So this is kind of a must win. Not necessarily for the Niners because they're at 4-4. They're in a relatively weak division in the NFC West, but for the Bucs, certainly kind of feels like a must win to keep their kind of faint NFC South hopes alive and stay within the playoff race as they head into their bye week to hopefully get healthy. But for the Niners, it's right now looking at them, they're slowly starting to get healthy. They're getting some bodies back this weekend, which is always good. So hopefully this second act, the beginning of Act 2, will be at least something. It has to be the start of something very positive, because the first act, not necessarily good on some accounts. So hopefully the second act will provide something nice. And hopefully that something nice will be a very good run. So anyway, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your predictions for this game between my 49ers and the Tampa Bay Bucks in the comments below. Early game, by the way, on Sunday, because they're in the East Coast. 10 o'clock start time. And at least we'll get it out of the way relatively quickly. And then move on with the day. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and predictions in the comments below, and let's have a conversation about it. Anyway, this is Dylan Lasagna signing out of another Niners video here on Very Cold Lasagna. Keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until I see you, when I see you in the next one, peace out.